All right, let's recap some LSU football. Tigers get the win 28-25 over Mississippi State. It was a game that, while ended as a 3-point margin, LSU had an 18-point lead with 11 and a half minutes left in the game. I mean, they were in control really from the start, and they never trailed. It was never tied. It was just kind of all LSU right up until the end, where Coach O even has said it. They probably didn't rotate as well as they could have on defense. Had some guys tired. They were out there for 88 plays. A lot of bend, a lot of don't break. Great play in the secondary. Great open field tackling by LSU for the second week in a row. All of that compiles together. You get the win, and you're 1-0 in the SEC. And I know some people might point to it and say, yeah, but you were up the 18 and you only won by 3. Yeah, it was just Mississippi State. And I look at that and I say, you never apologize for winning anything in this league because it's so tough. It's a win is a win. You take them how you get them. You're 1-0. You move on to Auburn. See if you can't go 2-0. There's nothing to be ashamed of in winning.
Well said,
Ever.
man. Well said. And you saw a lot of good stuff from the defense, despite, the fact that Mississippi State outgained LSU, despite the rally that you just mentioned at the end. That first half, when they gave up 3 points the entire half, it was the first time in a long time, Musso, at least for me, that it felt and it looked like we were watching an LSU defense. And the game plan from Durante Jones was excellent. From the official LSU game notes after the game, this was the first time that the Tigers started a game in dime defense, 5 defensive backs, only 3 down linemen, since they faced Texas Tech and Patrick Mahomes in the 2015 Texas Bowl. And obviously they've mixed some dime coverages in throughout that time period, but it was clear that LSU was coming out with a clear defensive game plan to limit that air raid, which they did not do at all last season. And it was really nice to see. It was really nice specifically to see LSU play a zone against this opponent. And then just chilling is who got the pick again?
Cordell Flott.
Who also forced the fumble on the drive before. He was just sitting there in his own defense. It looked very similar to Eli Ricks' interception against UCLA. So you love the adjustment. You love to see the defense flying around. They're clearly playing with a lot more confidence, especially guys like Flott, like Damone Clark, who are playing a lot better than they did last season in this new scheme. Got to love what you saw from LSU, especially on defense.
You mentioned holding them to 3 points in the first half. They held them to 3 points until 6 minutes and 48 seconds left in the ball game.
But just getting
the whole
halftime,
game.
Just getting to halftime, holding the opponent out of the end zone was progress. That's
nice. A team that put up 44 points on you last year. They didn't score their first touchdown until under 7 minutes left in the game.
Yes, and just because the game dictated it that way.
Exactly. I mean, but it was, and I liked, you mentioned the adjustment just in total from last year, but the in-game adjustments, because that's something I was so interested in seeing because you didn't see it against UCLA. And now you have Durante Jones, who's a young coordinator, going up against another offensive scheming guru head coach. But the in-game adjustment was there too. I know we kind of talked about this pre-show. It was the drive in the second quarter. LSU's up 7-0. Mississippi State's finally starting to find some stuff in the passing game. They get down inside the red zone. LSU takes the timeout. They alter their front a little bit, come out. State ends up going more to a running game in the red zone. And LSU stuffs it and gets a goal line stand. And that's how you end up at that 7-3 margin. That was a massive sequence in the game because you go into the half 7-7 as opposed to 7-3. They were starting to build momentum in the passing game. You might not feel as good as you did if that doesn't happen. So credit to Coach O, credit to Durante Jones, credit to the players for the in-game adjustments that allowed them to really just stay in control of this football game.
And I'm curious to see them face Auburn this weekend and Tank Bigsby, because that was the formula that beat LSU's defense, establishing the line of scrimmage the way UCLA did in week 1 and then building your offense off of that. DTR made the plays when he needed to make the plays. So I still have some questions about LSU's run defense when they do play those kind of teams, including Auburn, who they'll see this Saturday. But facing the opponent you were facing, it was a perfect defensive game plan, and you love some of the individual efforts that we mentioned, including Clark and including Micah Baskerville as well at the linebacker position, as well as Cordell Flott, who balled out at defensive back. But talking about the offense, there's still a lot of criticism for Max Johnson. And some of it is warranted. He's still leaving some plays out there. Underthrew Smith on that interception. But at the end of the day, these are the cold, hard facts, Musso. Max Johnson, 5-1 as a starter for LSU. He's the first player in program history to pass for at least 3 touchdowns in each of his first 6 starts. And right now, he's number 2 nationally in touchdown passes, tied for first in the SEC with Bryce Young with 15 scores. So Max is doing a lot of good, but there is some things that he needs to clean up.
It's tough, Mario, to look at this team in general and try to say that they haven't improved from week to week, because they have. Like, it's almost undeniable. Max Johnson, to me, is probably one of the more tangible examples of that improvement. Is it perfect? Of course not. He absolutely still has more things he can work on. But it's important to note that he's only made 6 starts in his career.
Yeah, 5-1.
5-1, but it's only 6 starts. He's still a young starting quarterback, but you can see the improvement. You could see it. I know we talked about this too pre-show. We can do it right now. You saw it on the first touchdown pass of the game Saturday. He sidestepped the free rusher, climbed in the pocket, and hit Kayshon Boutte. He does not make that play week 1 against UCLA. That doesn't happen, but it happened now. You look at the RPO touchdown, the second play from scrimmage in the second half. Pressure's coming. He doesn't make that throw in week 1, but this time he puts it on Kayshon Boutte's face mask while taking a hit from the safety. That's the improvement. Could he get better on the deep ball? Sure, but that time can come. Does he still get happy feet a little too much in the pocket? Sure. To the guy's, benefit, to give him the benefit of the doubt, he's running for his life a lot back there because the pass protection still hasn't been great. But there is actual improvement that you can see from Max Johnson. You're starting to see the poise come back a little bit. The completion percentage is there. The passing yards are there. The touchdowns are definitely there. And honestly, even though he's under pressure and there's been some missteps in the passing game, the protection of the football and the decision-making has been there for Max Johnson.
Tangible progress, Musso. It's nice to see. I texted you right as soon as that first touchdown pass against Mississippi State happened, and I can't repeat exactly what I said on air in describing LSU's offensive line up to this point, but it's clear that Max is adjusting to his subpar offensive line. And you made a great point. It looked a lot like the UCLA game in that Arnett, the Mississippi State defensive coordinator, was trying to attack Max. He was bringing the pressure on those third downs and trying to force Max Johnson to beat them. And he did a great job on that specific play that you're bringing up. I feel like before he maybe would have tried to retreat or he would have tried to make something else happen, but he trusted the play. He climbed in the pocket and he found Boutte on a perfect touchdown pass on a crossing route. And I love the progress that we're seeing, man. And even the interception, again, I was texting you during the game, probably don't throw at 13. But even the interception, I don't mind as much because the receiver, Smith, had a step on the defensive back there. Max just underthrew him. Next time, do better. But I like that he's taking those plays, and I like that the interception isn't like he's forcing something like he was against UCLA and the really bad interception that he threw. So you're going to need a little bit more out of Max Johnson, I think, when you get to the tougher opponents on the schedule. But as you see the growth.
You'll continue to get, that's the thing, you'll continue to get more because you do see the growth. It was a good win, man. Look, it's a really good win. One of the things, hell, screw it. Repeat it one more time. You weren't going to learn anything, McNeese, Central Michigan, but maybe we're going to see a little bit of improvement. Could that improvement carry over? Parts of it did, 100%. That's a good win. Again, you don't ever apologize for winning, especially in the SEC West. You're 1-0. You got an Auburn team coming in this week, which could end up having a pretty familiar face starting at quarterback. We have all week to talk about that, though, and it'll be at 8 o'clock, a Saturday night in Death Valley. Everybody will be probably pretty liquored up, and it should be a really good night in Tiger Stadium, and you have a good chance to go to 2-0.
Yep, Auburn hasn't won there since 1999. A whole lot on the line for LSU. And before we break, some interesting stats that kind of show the continued development of this team or the sample size and the numbers still being there. LSU only had 1 sack against Mississippi State, but they're still tied for the national lead with 18 sacks. And they're number 2 in the NCAA in tackles for loss, only behind Auburn, who has 43. LSU has 42. And last stat we had to get to, Kayshon Boutte has 8 touchdowns in freaking 4 games. Like, what?
That's really good. I mean, he's just a complete difference maker. I mean, and it's there's certain situations that he's getting the ball and they just can't stop it. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it because he's just that much better than anybody you have on your sideline.
Yeah, he's so good.
He's a complete difference.
I said it before, man, and he's still got a whole another year on campus, God willing, if everything goes right. He's on the same level with Odell Beckham, with Landry, with any great LSU receiver, and the numbers support it.
Yeah, 100%. So, and you know what? I'm glad you mentioned, before we go to break, you mentioned the sacks. LSU, one of my favorite things about it, obviously you go to that 3-man front, you're not going to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and they knew that, but they were okay with that because Coach O even kind of alluded to it, Mario, last Thursday. It was going to be tough to get home on Mississippi State anyway because they get rid of the ball so quickly. Something like 2.5 seconds or something is what he said. He said if we can get them to hold it to 3, we feel good about getting home. But at 2.5, it's going to be tough anyway. So you had to give up something in order to stop it, and it's tough to give up the thing you lead the country in, and that is the strength of your, not really just your defense, but your team, really at this point has been the pass rush, but it probably wasn't even going to be that fruitful in the first place, and that might have made it a little bit easier. And the whole bend but don't break, man, it was perfect.
Yes.
It was State got 486 yards of offense, 371 through the air. Who cares? They didn't score as many points as you, and that's really the only stat that matters in the end.
The game plan was really good. Durante Jones deserves a lot of credit, but at the end of the day, it was the execution by the players because, as you said, to execute that game plan, you had to come up, you had to make tackles in space, which LSU did, Damone Clark especially, and LSU played with a lot of fire. I thought the body language was really good, and I think it's interesting to hear Kirk Herbstreit's comments on College Game Day and kind of everybody's reaction to it.
Boy, people didn't like that,
No, LSU not playing with fire, LSU not playing with the intensity on defense that we're accustomed to seeing, but after the UCLA game, probably a lot of LSU fans agreed with him. But I thought LSU did a great job of going out there. Really good body language. The defense, like I said, you could tell they had a lot of confidence in the game plan, and they executed it really well.
You mentioned Damone Clark. We would be remiss if we did not mention Damone Clark, SEC Defensive Player of the Week this year. Conference office announced that earlier this morning. So he's led the team in tackles all 4 games. He was all over the place. And look, man, the coverage skills have gotten better from Damone Clark too. So he looks like a much improved player through 4 weeks. Looks like the jump you expected him to make from 2019 to 2020, but it's happened so far this year through 4 games. So absolutely, congratulations to Damone Clark, SEC Defensive Player of the Week.